Dun, 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 dun. Hello, hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday evening. And thank you for joining me on The Upside today. I'm so excited because Hunter Hayes is going to be my guest today. And I just am really excited to talk to him because he's got such a crazy life experience. Like, in looking more into like his history, as I was kind of prepping to chat with him, I was like, dang, he has had a life. And, so I'm just excited to hear kind of about his journey. And also he's got brand new music that we'll be listening to, some of which just came out today. So you guys are like almost getting to hear it first. So anyways, I'm really excited about that, but I hope you guys are all having a good week. And I'm looking at the chat here. Everybody's saying hi. Welcome, E. Wheeler. Welcome, Brittany. We got some Hunter Hayes fans in the house already. So, yeah. I mean, if you want to put in the chat what your favorite Hunter Hayes song is, maybe we'll play it later. But yes, hi, everybody, and thanks for asking how I'm doing. I'm doing really well. It has been a pretty gloomy week here in LA, but I feel like that's, I see that someone said, Matrix Girl said Sober is her favorite song, which is one of the songs that just came out today. So good answer. I think we can definitely play that for you. That Burgess Girl also says she wants to hear Sober, and Danny Danette says that as well. Loving You, You Think You Know Somebody. Yeah, he's got so many good songs. Missing is a great one. Missing You. But yeah, so we'll be playing some of those later. But anyways, yeah, it's been a pretty gloomy week here in LA, which is kind of unusual. We're used to sun out here, but I know it's been like that across the whole country. We actually had some of the most intense rains we've had in years, and it just dumped on us. And I live in one of the canyons here, and I'm not joking when I say that when I left my house, I didn't realize how bad it was. And I drove, and in the canyon there were literally cars that were stuck in mudslides, that couldn't move. There were trash cans floating down the middle of the road. There was a fire that had erupted. I think it was a gas leak, and all these cop cars and fire engines were on their way. So I remember just being like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in the movie Dante's Peak. It was pretty intense. But anyways, I'm obviously being slightly dramatic, but it really was a lot, and lots of homes were flooded. Some of my friends on our street, their houses got flooded. I was very lucky. But yeah, our power went out for a day, and it just really makes you appreciate all the little things when you don't have something like power and internet, those basic human needs as they've become. Yeah, so as someone says, I was swimming the commute. Oh my gosh, someone's saying, Genner says they have a ice storm happening. Doesn't remind anybody of a certain song that might have been played this last Christmas quite a bit. Yeah, everybody's saying that they're experiencing crazy rains too. So nothing new over here. I'm not saying anything anyone doesn't know, but our guest Hunter is here. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Hunter in to the chat for this conversation. So let's bring him on in. Awesome. Hey, Hunter, can you hear me? Let's see. I can't hear you. I think you have to unmute yourself. Sometimes this app can be a little bit tricky.
Got it. Yeah. Is this working now?
I can hear you. How are
Hallelujah.
you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing so good. It's been a kind of a crazy, gray week. How have you survived the rains? How is all of that going for you?
Well, it's funny because my studio up there in the middle of nowhere. I haven't been in a minute since we kind of finished the album, but I've been watching. Actually, I got updates today how crazy it is in out in the woods where our studio is there's a lot of there's been a lot of water, and there's been a lot of changes because of that. I've never seen anything like it. It's wild.
Right. Okay, good. Because I felt like, maybe I'm just exaggerating, but then I hear other people talk.
It's wild.
No, it was pretty intense and crazy for a little bit there. And like, yeah, there's certain things that just aren't working at my house. And you're like, well, I guess that's what pounds and pounds of water will do. So, normal stuff. But glad you survived. Is the studio okay and everything?
Yeah, thank God everything's good there. And no, I was getting texts from neighbors, and like half the road to the studio, it just like washed away. Like there's like you can see the pipes underground. Like it's nuts. Like the impact that it's made out there, because it's more like desert kind of where we were at. The impact that it's made is pretty profound. Like the road to get there was closed for I think like 2 weeks. So it's just like it's nuts. You're not exaggerating. And I've been kind of keeping an eye on it. It's weird not to be there, but we've been keeping an eye on it. It is wild.
Yeah. So,
but I really appreciate you having me on. Thanks for opening up your AMP show to let me kind of chat with you and hang out with you. I'm really excited. It's nice to be on your AMP show. I'm actually in our AMP studio in the same spot where we do our AMP show, and I did it last night. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's really fun to be on your show. I'm excited.
Well, thank you so much for doing it. And I was joking as I was like, prepping for this. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're like coworkers because we're both like AMP producers. We both have our own show. So it's almost like we're just chatting at the water cooler today.
Yeah, I love it. I know we miss each other because like my shift is on Tuesdays and yours is on Wednesdays. And so like we're always kind of missing each other. No, it's really fun. I secretly have a bunch of questions about like how you host your show and all the technical stuff, but I'll save that for off air.
Yeah. I actually was just curious how we can talk about it on air. Like, how have you liked the experience of having like your own show? And do you treat it more like a talk show or more like a radio show? Like, yeah, what has your experience been?
I think at first I felt the pressure to treat it like a radio show. Like I had the first night I did it, I had like 6 cameras rolling. I had like every kind of lighting, like light, professional video lighting thing. I spent the entire night before like lighting and prepping the cameras. Like it was obnoxious. And I treated it like a radio show. And then as we got into it, I was like that actually the really personal conversational, like when the fans call in and we actually get to talk to them. I've changed my own expectations and my own pressure on the show. Like I used to be really, we had to have a theme, we had to stick to the theme, we had to commit to the theme, and it's like that's not what I think people connected with. And I've kind of learned that the less the irony is like the less prepared I am, the less prepared I feel, the better the show is, because we just get to go with the flow. And my whole word for this year is flow state. Like that's something I'm chasing and working harder on. And so I've kind of gone a little bit more into like, no, the stream of conscience. Let's have conversations. Let's open conversations. And it's less like we have to stick to the theme. And it's kind of, and also the chat feature has like turned my world like upside down in a good way. It's more engaging, because I think the reason, to answer your first question, like the thing that I love about getting to do this, and I imagine you relate to this, but I've missed touring, and I haven't gotten back to touring since 2019. So the consistency of getting to connect with fans, because that is like, that is my favorite part about touring. We do these like after show, hangs. We like meet people at the buses, and like it's always community based, right? And that's the best part about what I feel like we have built. Is the community, is the people, is that safety zone of like where people come to sort of like connect. So I really missed that, and the show kind of gave me the chance to check in and like be present and connect with everybody. And even though we can only get to like 2 or 3 calls per episode on our end, like it's really given me a chance to stay connected and feel connected, and I needed that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like. We artists, we become wired in such a weird way after touring. Like you're either going to like really lean into it and it becomes like almost a need like to connect with people on a level like that, or people hate it, but I do feel like touring and being an artist, it does like kind of rewire this need in your body for like, I need to connect with people like on a regular basis. Like if I don't feel it, like I feel like I'm like isolated, and like it's a funny thing that it's like I didn't need it before I started touring, but maybe I just didn't realize I needed it. I don't know. Also, you were speaking my language as you were talking about kind of how you were prepping for your first show and then realizing that maybe it's better when you flow with it more. And I'm curious, are you like an over preparer? Like, do you just like to have everything structured and everything, like, you know exactly what you're going to do when you do it? Like, is that kind of how you usually work, even in a creative setting?
Not so much in a creative setting. And I think that's why, like, I struggle with social media, or like, I've struggled for years kind of with my team and social media, because like I wear different hats different days, and I have to give myself expectations, or like, okay, so the contrast. I'm a Virgo. I've also been told how much of a Virgo. So yeah, so there we go. Like, we're connecting on that. Like, everything is prepared. Like, we rehearse the show more times than we're going to play it when we go on tour. I'm, which I feel like this is another thing we can, I feel like we have a lot of common threads, but, like I'm pre-visiting the show, I'm arranging the show, but even before I'm talking with the rest of the team, and like everything, I live by the day sheet on Master Tour. Like nothing, I don't like surprises, because I like to show up as 100% whatever I need to be during that moment. As a performer, when I'm the artist, when I'm in public, when I'm out, when I'm promoting, music, that's one hat that I wear, and it allows me, because I know that from 8 to 4 p.m. I'm going to be talking about the record. I kind of just like assign all the other tasks in my brain, all the other things in my life, to like, that's going to happen later. That's going to happen after. I'm not going to answer any other messages. I'm not going to talk to anybody. This is where I'm at. I'm present. And especially when I'm like with fans and people, like I like to be there. I like to be present. Being present is the only, I have OCD. So I've learned that over the past like 2 years. And so that is the only way that I can feel like I was there. That is the only way that I can connect experience to memory and remember, yeah, no, I was there and it was amazing. Otherwise, like, I feel disconjointed or discombobulated, and I end up not actually remembering things because of the OCD and because of these loops. And and in the same time, the contrast, creative wise, that's why I don't want anyone, like, that's why I don't think about like public facing stuff when I'm in the studio. I have to create a safe space where I can splatter paint. No one has to ever hear it. It never has to come out. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't think about what it's going to sound like when it's released. I just think about how it sounds and feels there. It allows me to splatter paint and be goofy and do dumb stuff that ends up working. And it's a completely different hat, a completely different personality. And I think, as maybe my theory is, as a Virgo, it's like a nice vacation for me to create, because that is the zone where I can go against all of the things that I have to have on a normal day to function properly. When I'm when I'm in studio, when I'm in creative flow, I'm the best version of myself,
Oh my goodness. I'm sure my managers are listening right now and being like, Lindsey, pay attention to what he's saying, because being a Virgo, I'm very, like, I relate so much to when you're saying, exactly how the show is going to go. Like, every beat of my show, I know exactly where I need to stand and where I need to be and what I'm going to say, or what, it's all so planned out, because I want to be the best version of myself and because I want to give that to my fans. But sometimes that really does translate into my creative process too much. And I'm too perfectionistic in the process. I have a hard time, like you said, just splattering paint. And so anyways, Jessica, my manager, just put a bunch of laughing faces, and they're all how they're like, yes, please listen here. Like, because they always tell me, have fun and like learn to let go. So I think that's a really, really great perspective of like giving yourself permission to just be, and knowing that no one has to hear it. And then also, I just want to ask you, you mentioned being present and how you've over the years learned how important it is to focus on being present. And, since you said you have OCD, I'm just curious, how do you do that? Because I know myself, like, I realized, because of a lot of the anxiety that I deal with, I finally came to the realization that, oh my gosh, I am not present through like half of my life. I'm watching myself. I'm worrying, and it's been something I've been working on, and I've found my own tools to help me. But I'm curious, what is it that has helped you learn to like be present in a moment?
So a little bridge between what we were just talking about and a little callback to what we talked about earlier. Something that I learned in I did several like intensive therapies in 2021, and I've continued like working with a lot of people on specific things. But one of the things that I learned and figured out, at 31, is as a young kid, I was playing shows. So, what we experience on a live show is a heightened, it's a heavenly, it's a euphoria that nothing can give you. It's a human, for me, it's the human connection. You're connecting with people. There's validation in that. And that's just like the otherworldly. And then there's the travel, which is like every day you're waking up in a new place. You're inspired. You're just taking in so much information that you've never taken in before. It's a new, every day is a new experience. And then 3, the camaraderie, like you get to pick who you're on the road with, like my bus is my favorite people. Like I get to curate my friends. It's the weirdest thing. And it's also kind of weird, like when you're off tour and like, they go away, and that was a thing that I had to deal with. But one of the things that I realized in all the sort of work was, as a young kid playing on stage, like, I got to experience validation and love after playing, music on stage. And the wild part about that is that the crazy thing about that is I learned that in that euphoric high, I experienced that, and I learned that at like 5 years old. And what I had to learn as an adult was how to just be. Right. And so like my favorite parts of the show, like we structure everything, but my goal with the show is that everything is so structured that I can actually just walk on stage and be. So it's been like 10 years of trying to get to that point and figure out how to like be on stage, because I've had a lot of anxiety around my voice, a lot of insecurities around my voice. Formerly, I don't anymore, which I'm really proud that I've like gotten through that. But for a long time, it was difficult for me to walk on stage, and the goal was to just be. So like, if you look back like 5 years ago, we would always have a third song with a jam at the end that there was no structure for, and that was for me to break the cycle of like everything has to be structured and have a moment to just be on stage. And what I've come to understand now, answering your question, I'm working more intentionally on how to just be on stage and feel it's my happiest place. I want to feel that. I don't want to be overcome by fear. I had one show last year, and it was one of the first. It was my second show back, and it wasn't my show. I was part of a group of several artists, and I sang 2 songs. That's it. And I was so insecure. I was so overrun with anxiety and fear and all these things that I like went back to my dressing room and like locked myself in the bathroom, like cried for like 20 minutes. It sounds ridiculous, but I had to learn how to get back on stage and just be and enjoy and love, like just enjoy and be present. So I'm slowly getting to the actual core of your question, but I think that's where I start trying to figure that out. Am I doing? Because doing is my relationship with, if I do, meaning if I perform on stage, if I play a show, like I can feel love, and that love feels amazing, and that's the height. That's like the ultimate. But also, do I feel safe enough? Have I worked? Do I understand enough to just be and understand and give myself the space to know if I am just here, I can also be loved, and that can also be a very, very validating experience. So I'm really negotiating how to just be and enjoy that.
Yeah, that's a really powerful thought, especially like you said, when you're a performer and you do, from the time you were 5, getting that kind of validation, it does kind of teach your brain that I must do in order to be accepted. I must do something in order to, and that can happen to anyone, even if they're not a performer, just realizing that, I get praise when I do certain things and when I act certain ways. But like retraining your mind that I'm enough, just being like that me at my raw form, like, is enough as well. That's a really powerful, and I feel like a lifelong process to learn. And by the way, I can relate so much to your story. Like I've done that before, where you run to the, your dressing room and just cry. And I was actually really proud of myself. Like I worked a lot to get over this feeling of I had to be perfect, or I had to be what I thought everybody wanted me to be. Because I finally just was like, a therapist told me one day, you are missing it. Like you're living your dream, right? And I was like, yeah, this is my dream. And she's like, well, guess what? You're missing it, because you're spending these amazing shows. Like you played Red Rocks and you cried in your dressing room after the show. You missed it. How did everybody else feel? And I was like, everybody else was stoked. Like my band, my dancers, they were all so happy. And I missed it, and it's been a really interesting experience through the last year. And I was really proud of myself on my last year of touring. I didn't do that once. And it was because I learned that I just get to, kind of you said, I get to be. And my mantra was I am just here to share love with my fans. Like I do all the prep work before, I can be critical in my rehearsals, but once I step on stage, I don't get to be critical anymore. And I'm just here to give like love. And you know, so yeah, I totally relate to that experience. And we all find our own language and our own ways to like hopefully break through that. Otherwise we'll go crazy, right?
Yeah, man, I really appreciate you sharing that. I'm really grateful that you're so honest about those experiences, because I think it's really easy for people to see, you know, you headlining these huge venues and you know, by all means from the outside looking in, like huge success, and yet we still have those human moments of like, but still am I enough?
Right.
And did I do enough? You know,
Right.
and that's universal, right? Like every human has that feeling, that question, and it comes in different forms. And I think it's so relieving to know that other people think about that. It's sad to know, right? But also really, really stoked to hear like the renegotiation of your relationship with that is really incredible.
Right. And I think you bring up a really great point that it's not like, oh, performers deal with this. It's like, oh, like inviting people over to your house, like can trigger these same emotions and same need to like perform, and, you know, or going to a friend's party, like the same need of acceptance that we feel when we step on stage. Like it's all the same thing. And so, and when you put it in that way, it's like, yeah, this is something that like everybody deals with to like a certain extent. And I'm curious, you mentioned earlier that your word of the year is flow. And I love that. Everything you say, I'm like, oh, me too. I pick a word of the year every year. And so what made you, like, I want to hear more about that, like flow.
One of the first things I said in my first like intensive therapy, which just for context, is kind of just like 4 or 5 days, no phone, no laptop, no contact with the outside world. You talk to one person and that's it.
Wow.
And you just like, you dive in, you just go for it. And your homework is, you know, working on what you've worked on during that day. And I was so ready to do this. I've been wanting to do it for 5 years and like kept making excuses because I was like, oh man, I can't be gone for 5 days. Like, what if my team needs me? What if I, you know, need a show for this, that, whatever, which was dumb. And I finally did it, you know, during 2021. And the first thing I said was like, I want to like be able to like live my life and feel the way that I feel when I'm leading a band. And it started as like, I want to lead my team. Like I want to lead I lead my band, because on stage when I'm, you know, working musically, it's effortless, it's easy, it's fun, and it works. And I wanted to get to that with my professional life at the time. And it led to, wait a minute, I kind of want this for my personal life, because it all goes back to the psychology of like, how do you retrain your brain to choose happiness, to choose joy, to choose, you know, the good side of faith, and not questioning like a what if, you know? And so flow, like I know what it's like when I'm on stage and like, you know, we're doing a solo and there's no structure, and everybody in the band, like I'll play a bass part 3 times. My bass player will just take off with that and like make his own version of that line. And then, you know, I'll kind of like, just what happens when that happens, like the feeling that I have when there's a lot of trust, there's a lot of faith, and there's a lot of conviction and belief that I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And this is like, everything around me is perfect in its own way. Like it's meant to, everyone's meant to be here. Everything's meant to happen this way. And I just wanted to translate that into my life. Like I'm very fearful. I'm very cautious. I'm calculated sometimes when I don't want to be. And so flow was just kind of my way of saying, all right, dude, you know how good it feels when you just like trust the process in music? Let's just imagine, let's just try like applying that to everything, like every human interaction and every conversation that I have. Like I had to have a lot of like really not confrontational conversations, but I had to have a lot of conversations in the last 2 years that I've never had to have before. And, you know, that flow state of just like coming from a place of love, gratitude, understanding, compassion, and trust, faith, all of those things sort of converging on the same, on me as a human. Like, how do I put that into practice? Not just wait for the next show and hope that I can walk away remembering how it felt, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful. Like taking the moments of your life that you're like, this is me, this is what I love. Okay, how do I bring this into like the other? Because oftentimes I think of my life almost like there's two sides of it. Like there's like the performing and touring Lindsey, and like, and then there's the like real life Lindsey, but like who's to say that they can't all kind of merge into like one person and one life attitude. I don't know how to say that, but it's a really cool thought, and like way to go for, I don't know, discovering that. And intensive therapy, that sounds really amazing, but also like kind of terrifying. And so cool. So props to you for doing that. Has therapy been a part of your life for like a long time, or is this something that only recently you've like dove in really deep into?
Yeah, man, I'm really grateful. Like I was encouraged when I started out. I was given a number to a guy that I ended up sitting down with, and those were my first couple of experiences, and it helped a lot. And he was, his role for me at that time was merely just to sort of introduce me to the concept of talk therapy, and get sort of comfortable with like what can happen, how helpful it is. I have so many people that I grew up around, or like people that I've heard talk about it in such a way where it's like, oh, you do that if you have something to fix. You do that if you're broken. And that helped me break that understanding and come to like, wait a minute, everybody goes to the gym once a day. Like we should all be doing therapy once a day. Granted, like therapy needs to be more affordable for more people. And that's something that I feel like I've been working to include that in my like life. That's a nonprofit that I'm like passionate about, and that's something that I want to contribute towards. But yeah, I started like super early in my career when I was first touring a lot, and then I worked with several people, and then kind of not took a break intentionally, but my life got crazier, and I made excuses to kind of stop for a while when I probably should have just kept going. And then it kind of came back up in a relationship sense, and it was eye-opening and groundbreaking, and I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot of stuff that I wanted to work on. And then it just became, like over the last like year, it just felt, if I'm gonna level up, like I knew that what I really wanted out of my life, like professionally and personally, was to level up in every category. And I just was like, man, if I'm going to level up, then I have to understand myself deeper than I do. And that's what it really is. That's how I explain it to everybody. It's like the intensive therapy was like getting an owner's manual for yourself and being able to reference it when things come up that you don't understand, or you react, or feelings take over. And I felt like I got my life back, and I felt like I got me back. And that's, it's been something I've done for a long time. And because I believe in it, I've seen it. I'm living proof. I mean, me a year ago versus me now, is two different people. And I'm really proud of that. But also, like, I just think it's really helpful going forward. I love using it as an exercise, like being able to have an experience during the week that like throws me off course. And for me to be able to say, all right, I'm excited to work through that and figure out how that and why that happened. There's nothing more satisfying than knowing that, or than having resources, having the sort of owner's manual for yourself and understanding yourself in such a deep way where, you can just put all those like reactions aside, and you get to be proactive about who you want to be and how I want to be present with people, with life decisions, conversations, and rather than holding on for dear life on a roller coaster that you don't know what's happening next.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And, I see some people in the comments, and my sister even told me one time, she's like, I'm well aware that therapy is a privilege. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, I'm so grateful that especially when I was in really dark places, but also just the maintenance of being able to go to a therapist, like you said, to help me level up. And, I'm like, okay, I know it. I'm very aware and very grateful that I can do this. But what are your thoughts for people that, I see comments saying I don't have money to do therapy, or I don't have time. What are ways that you think people can do therapy? There's so many different forms of therapy. So like, are there any practices that you do that help you that just anyone can do?
Yeah, I totally appreciate that too. Like, I understand that like that is something that's come with, achieving success has made it more accessible, and I'm really grateful for that. At the same time, there are a lot of, new startups that are making it more accessible that I love. And are also sort of like making it more accessible, not just financially, but sort of from the time commitment, or from the sort of like, this is a big daunting task. How do I work on this? How do I yeah, how do I do this? You know, how do I enter into it? And like, there are seasons in life where you just don't have the capacity to even think about, like, God, I don't even want to talk about any of these things, because I'm just like, I'm doing everything I can just to, you know, enjoy my day and get through the day. So I've encouraged, and I've talked about this on our amp show quite a lot, but just like, I encourage little things, like the smallest little changes in your day, and little tiny things can make the biggest difference. And I think it just starts with like, what's going to bring me joy right now? You know, how can I give myself joy? How can I, you know, treat myself in a small way? And it's little things like, for instance, you know, I'm not good at meditating at all. And I also looked at it from a very outsider's kind of perspective for the longest time. But then I realized, like, you know, 5 minutes before I like get out of bed, like doing a good meditation that just, like, I don't know, says the right words, can totally change my day. It reprograms your brain. It rewires your brain so that everything that happens from then on is from a different perspective. Little things like that have helped me a lot. You know, I love going for drives. I've just kind of made time for just like a 5-minute drive here or just 10 minutes there, just to kind of, and with the goal, setting intentions has been really helpful too. Like, what am I doing right now? I'm going to go for a drive. Why am I going for a drive? Because I want to see the neighborhood. I want to see the world around me, because I've been in this one spot all day, or I've been working all day, and I want to remember that I'm surrounded by nature, or, you know, nature has been huge for me. Like, just the little tiny things, any little thing. If you can, like, for instance, I love late night hosts. I love monologues, and I think they're like hilarious, and anything that can help me laugh in the first like 30 minutes of my day always really helps. So I just like put on like a monologue in the background while I'm feeding the dogs or doing, you know, kind of starting the day. And that's helped me a lot. So I always encourage little things, the smallest shifts in your world, if, you know, geared towards making yourself more, you know, happy. Just doing something for yourself inside of your daily routine can change the way that your daily routine works for you, you know?
Yeah, I love that. It's like, you don't have to climb a mountain. You just have to take a step, you know, like, you know, go outside and like stand in the sun for like 2 minutes, you know, if you've been inside working all day. Like, I love that, you know, breaking it down and being like, just, you know, maybe if you can't do therapy right now, what can you do to just add a bump of like dopamine to your day? A little bump of happiness. Well, okay, I want to talk about music, because well, first of all, you just released 2 new songs today, I believe. Right?
I did, yes. 2 new songs.
That's huge. And like, all the work that goes into like getting all of that and ready, and all the mixes and all the tiny sounds, and just, I mean, the entire uphill battle it is to get a song out. So congratulations. I'm sure this is like Christmas Day for you. But I'm curious, I feel like this is like a really new music style for you. I was listening through the music, and, you know, I feel like actually Hunter and I sat by each other at a wedding a few months ago, which was really fun. And you were like telling me about like, I'm really switching my style. And you were so excited about it. So I'm just curious, what made you want to change your sound, and what inspired this kind of new direction for you?
Thank you so much for asking that question. You know, it was the biggest question that I was afraid of for the longest time, because, and what I've learned, even since then, because it does feel like that wedding was yesterday, but it was like almost a year ago now. There's not much that's changed. Like, the sound has changed for sure, but it hasn't changed in like oh, look at me, I'm doing this now. I watched a lot of artists do that, and I think I was afraid to do that, because that's not what I'm doing. Like, I think I watched a lot of cautionary tales of people, like, you know, switching genres and making a big deal out of it. And I was like, I've always kind of made a lot of stuff that's not in one box. I got, you know, the reason I got signed to the deal that I did was because I wanted to make multiple kinds of music. And this was 14 years ago. And so I think I had to come around to understanding I'm not changing what I'm doing. I'm just changing what I call it. And what I want people to know the most is, and what I had to come to the understanding of, is to communicate. I'm a singer-songwriter. I've always been a singer-songwriter. I will always be a singer-songwriter. That's what I do. That's my love. That's my life. And as a singer-songwriter, I like painting scenes. And, you know, so far, I think people have heard a lot of, you know, one of the things that I enjoyed doing, which was, you know, making country music, making country records, I grew up listening to a lot of country, and I felt a lot of authenticity listening to country as a young kid. And so I always identified with the storyteller nature of country. And I learned a lot from the singer-songwriters in that genre. And as I grew up, I listened to a lot of different music, and I was influenced by a lot of different music, and I wanted to try a lot of different things. And so I did a lot of, kind of specifically one style for a while. But I've always just like loved doing weird stuff and trying new things. So I think this is just the era where I'm kind of allowing myself to try all of those things, allowing myself to experiment and just like do stuff that I've never given myself permission to do, or maybe never was, able to do. And it's really just an era of, I'm going to show you the whole me, not just parts of me,
Yeah. That's so awesome. And, it takes courage to do that. It also takes a lot of like I'm in the phase right now of, trying to write new music, and I'm not trying to like completely reinvent myself, but it's like time for a change. It's time to kind of switch things up a bit. And it takes a lot of experimentation and a lot of time to like find the balance of like how much new, how much old. Oh, actually, I thought this was me, but it's not really feeling like me. So we're going to go a different way. Like, was it quite a process for you to figure out like what these new songs were going to sound like?
Yeah, it was. And, I'm used to, I've just recently confessed this to my fans on my amp show, but I was so used to for so long turning in 100, I'm not exaggerating, 100, I wish I was, but 100 songs a year and being told, no, that's not the one thing that we're looking for. We need one thing from you. And as soon as we have that, we can put the rest of this music out. And that's not me, talking down about anybody or anything or any institution. That's economically, that's how they're designed. That's what they needed from me. And that's how I started building my career. So, I think the tricky part for me was the language of, okay, now I can do anything. And I've said this a lot, so my fans have heard me say this a lot lately, but okay, now I can do anything. And that's both terrifying and amazing. But it starts with terrifying, when you're used to voting by committee to get the track listing for an album, and then you start an album going, all right, I can do whatever I want, Yeah. They're sort of like, well, what if I mess up? What if I do too much? And so Red Sky was a lot of, when I needed a lot of external validation too. And I also struggled anytime I asked for feedback, because in my experience, any negative feedback meant that the song was never going to come out. And I was tied to that experience. And I also really wanted feedback. I wanted and I also, I think had to renegotiate what I was looking for, because in some ways I was looking for validation. And in those particular categories, I think I had to find it in myself. Like I had to finish a song and go, I feel so good about this that the world has to hear it. And the first song that actually happened with was Sober. And so that's why it's such an important song for me, because even though other songs have come out, before this song, this is the song that really, this was the turning point for me in taking ownership of this project. This being my first independent album, I wanted people to hear all the other stuff that I like doing and how much fun I have doing it. But I was scared, I didn't want to scare anybody off also, because that question came up so much, like, are you switching genres? It's like, why don't you just hang out, listen to it when you hear it, you'll get it. It'll make sense. But the process was a lot of learning how to take ownership, which is, what kind of prompted a lot of personal growth. I knew that I had to do that if I was going to sit in a studio by myself and go, I feel great about this. I've never been in a position where that was an option before. And so I had to learn how to do that. I had to learn to wear that hat and be, not even confident. I've always used the word convicted, like conviction, because there is the belief that it matters and that it's supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be here. This music is supposed to be here, and I'm supposed to work on it, for whatever reason. And so the hardest part of the process was taking ownership, getting to a place where I could sit and go, I love this. And I, not to quote the other song, but I love this and I trust that someone else will,
Yeah. Oh, that's so much easier said than done, to sit there and be confident and say, no, I know this is good. And it's nice to get the validation from others, but I don't need it. That's hard. And I feel like the longer I've been in this business, surprisingly, it gets harder to do that. It doesn't get easier. It's like you almost need the validation more and more. So it takes a really tangible decision on your part to be like, I'm going to step into my own self and see if I like it. Like, so that's really brave, and good for you for doing that. And I would love to play Sober right now. So is there anything else you want to say to kind of introduce what the song's about?
Yeah. I'm this, like I just said, like this was the turning point for me on a personal journey, making the album. But yeah, this song is about just like self-worth. I think the way that I think about it, it's so sobriety, not sobriety necessarily. It's more about like how relationships can kind of be intoxicating. I think there's like the honeymoon period, and there's the infatuation, and then also like dating the digital age. Like that was how I explained this song to people, and before I was doing interviews for it. Like it's kind of about dating, and there's so much performative nature to how meeting people happens now that it's kind of hard to figure out, am I actually meeting this real person, or am I meeting this person's version of themselves to sort of make this interaction work? And then, on the flip side, I've heard a lot of people who've been in a relationship too long because they're comfortable and they're not performing, but they're imagining like it'll get better. There's imagination, I think, can be the worst intoxication when it comes to relationships. And so that, but the song can be whatever people want it to be about for them. And that, I always say like once a song's out, it's yours. So, and I want this to be a message of the whole album is a message of self, like a lot of albums right now, but it's a message of like finally like seeing yourself as the hero in your own journey, and really recognizing yourself and appreciating who you are, and being whole in who you are. And I think this song kind of touches on that self-worth. Like, okay, well, if you're having to perform or to like be around me, or if I'm having to perform to be around you, is this it? So yeah.
All right. Well, I'm so excited to listen to it again, because I listened to it earlier when I saw you first released it. So, but it's such a great song. I see it being requested through all the comments. So let's play Sober. You guys are hearing it first, almost, because it's brand new. Woo! Oh my gosh, that was fun. I love that solo at the end. Is that you on the guitar at the end? Oh, sorry, you're muted, I think.
It's my first time. It's my first time on amp. First time doing all of this. Yeah, that's me. That's actually I think that's one of the songs on the album I ended up playing everything on. But the guitar nerdery at the end is definitely a self-indulgent guitar harmonies. Typically people try to talk you out of that, and I was just like, no, we got to do it.
Hey, I'm always here for an instrumental solo, obviously biased, but no, I thought that was a really fun little outro. But the song is so groovy. It's got such an, like, I saw so many people in the comments being like, oh my gosh, this would be amazing live, like, because it is so groovy and it has such a, so I'm excited for you to get to go on tour with this new music and like get to figure out this whole new version of yourself on stage.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I appreciate that.
Do you feel, well, I guess I want to go back to what you talked about a little bit earlier, how you've been performing, since you were like tiny. And I was thinking about it, like, I think your first TV performance, if I'm not mistaken, I saw a video of you when you had to have been like 4 or 5. And you've done some pretty big performances on TV when you were really little. So these kind of opportunities don't usually just land in people's laps. So like, how did that happen?
I have no idea. Like I think the thing is, like, I just wanted to play. So every time I had an opportunity, I'm so grateful. Like, I did not have stage parents. My parents aren't musical either. Like, they just saw me obsessed with music, and they worked so hard to make sure that I had the opportunity to do it. And it's not like we had not a wealthy family situation. Like my dad, like I remember my dad and mom working, easily 2 jobs at certain seasons, just so that we could take the weekends and go play gigs. And so it was just always like any opportunity I took, any opportunity to play, I took, and I did. Right. Didn't matter where it was, didn't matter what the audience was. Like, I just did it. I played every freaking thing I could. And I think just like, I think there was a moment I played for somebody at like a bed and breakfast in my hometown. I think it was Hank Williams Jr. had come through, and there was like a jam session, and so I joined the jam session, and he invited me on stage. And then, like, that turned into an opportunity on national television when I was like 5, which is actually, you know, fast forward several years, YouTube shows up and becomes a thing. You know,
Right.
it was early on. It was, you know, whatever you would call viral at that time, and that's how my publisher found me, because I was then 16 at the time. So, like, I think it's just been a lot of just like you give me a place to play and I'll play, because I love playing. I loved it as a kid. I thoroughly just enjoyed being, just making music, making sound for people.
Well, and you're wildly talented. I think you play like a million instruments, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm curious, would you call yourself a prodigy? And I mean, because most people can't just pick up instruments and play them.
Well, I actually think that you can. I think I just got lucky because, like, I tried an instrument really young, and I was able to make some noises that I liked, and so my brain programmed itself to say, all right, we can make music. And, you know, every instrument that I tried, I think I just focused on the good. You know, I didn't focus on the bad part. I was just like, hey, I did those 2 notes out of 12. And so it was just like, I think my brain programmed itself to believe, all right, if it's got, you know, if it's an instrument, it has strings, we can probably figure it out. And I think that was also part of the, like, recording process. Like, I didn't have the budget to go get bands in studios. I had access to instruments. So I was just like, all right, I'll figure it out. I'll do it myself. And, like, I've never pretended to be like an expert at any of these musicians. If anything, like, I love being a guitar player because I think that is the instrument that I am the most expressive on. And, like, I write everything on piano. So, like, I also love at some point, like, I want to do a tour just like me on piano, just because I think that's like where the songwriter heart of me is. But I've never pretended to be like great at any of these things, and that's like, I think that takes the pressure off, and then it's just like, great, we just gotta get the song recorded and figure out how to do it, you know. And that's the answer, is like whatever it takes to finish the song.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's honestly one of the most powerful mindsets to be successful, is the idea of like, well, I could probably do it. I could probably figure it out. Like, I'm not going to be perfect, but I can figure it out, and I can make it work, and then I'll get better. And then, you know, this mindset of just growth, that things grow and things get better. You know, so that's really powerful, because I've just always, like, looked at you and assumed, like, he must be a prodigy, you know, like, but, you know, like you said before, it's easy to look from the outside and think and just see a finished product and think that, oh, it must have just happened, you know. I also was told, did you play violin on this album as well?
Yes. But I would never walk up to you face to face and tell you, Lindsey, I can't wait to show you I played violin. That all of this entire sentence feels like a disaster waiting to happen. I've wanted to pick it up for a long time. I love the violin as an instrument. I worship the sound of it. I love string arrangements and larger sort of, you know, orchestral settings, or like even quartet settings. And I've wanted to learn that instrument, or just at least get to a place where I can play something on it. And so I was towards the end of the album. It was a Saturday morning. I was really hurt. And like, I was like really like depressed or something. And so I was like, you need to go get a fiddle. You need to go get a violin. You need to go and just walk in, let the guy know that you have no idea what you're doing, and just start from there. And so I did. I walked in, and this really sweet guy said, hey, welcome. How can I help you? And I was like, I have no idea. I really want a violin, but I haven't played in years. I was in like a camp when I was, I think, 5 or 6, and I literally didn't even play. Like, it was hilarious. So, I just picked that up, brought it back to LA, and we were working on the intro for the record. And I really wanted this like string swell sort of connection to the last record. And I was just like, you know what? Let's do it. I don't know if your audience is cool with profanity, but I was just like, I was just like, fuck it, let's try it. And so Ruslan is my like one of my best friends who I've gotten to know through making this record. And he was like, all right, I'm down. So we just like recorded, you know, 30 minutes of just like the worst noises in the world and just found the pieces that we liked. And then I was feeling overly confident because I was also drinking at the same time. So I was like, yeah, let's keep going. And so I ended up doing like and it's great because I wanted like this really kind of rough sounding quartet thing happening in the middle of this like rock song. And so, we made it work is where that ends up. And I'm able to say that I achieved a goal. I wanted to pick up the violin again, and I did. I would never, ever, especially in your presence, especially on your show, claim that I, quote unquote, played violin. Somehow we made sounds that I literally, the joke that was like, so I finished after 30 minutes, just like making noise. And Ruslan turned around and I was like fiddling with the, the bow placement. I was like, I feel like this is where it works best. And I like got a note out, and he was like, yeah. Cause I was doing that during, and he was like, yeah, man. He's like, dude, some of it is good. And that became the sentence that we used for the rest of the album. When we felt great about a song, we'd turn and we'd look at each other and be like, some of it is good. And I honestly think that's my studio vibe anyway. That's our splatter paint process. As long as we can say that at the end of the day, it was a success.
I love that. Because sometimes you'll write a song and that it's not a good song, but to be able to be like, but the bridge there was something cool in the bridge, like
some of it is good. Yeah.
Like, some of it is good. I love that. And hey, no shade here. My hat is off to you for like giving it that push and playing the violin. The violin's pretty unforgiving. And so I thought that was awesome. But then I was like, hey, why didn't he call me?
Honestly, yeah, I was too intimidated. I just had a feeling what I was asking for would be so boring and so just like, I don't know. I was just like, I got to figure it out.
No, my hat is off to you. That's so great. And I totally get it. I feel that way about, certain things I do in the dance world. I'm like, I would never call myself a dancer. I dabble. I have fun. I have pushed the boundaries, for myself. But would I call myself a professional dancer around a ballerina? Absolutely not. Like, see,
that's wild to me because when I watch your show, it's mesmerizing. The work that you put in, the work you put in is like really evident in your performance, and your performance always seems so effortless. And that's like, I'm so envious of how effortless it feels when you're on stage. So it's funny to me to hear you say that because I don't think any of us necessarily agree with that statement.
Oh, well, thank you. And, that's as performers, we hope that it feels effortless, after the months and months of practicing and agonizing over it. You hope that you can walk on stage and be like, I'm a fairy, like I'm magical. I'm not trying.
Well, it does. It goes a long way and it's very, it's present. You can feel it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Speaking of touring, do you have any plans to go on tour with this album anytime soon?
I want to tour this album. Yeah. I really wanted to tour Wild Blue, which was my last album. And that obviously that didn't happen, and that's fine. But this album means a lot to me. I think there's a message in it that I think people, I want people to hear, whether they connect with it or not, up to that's why I call everything kind of the paper airplane. It's like, once you throw it out, it's got to catch the wind and it's got to find its home. But I really want to tour this album. I love it. I think it's going to be a fun album to play live. And I really, really, really want to play more shows this year. So yeah, I really do want to tour. And I want to make sure that I can build a show. I also want to do a different show than what I've done in the past. I don't just want to show up and not that I've ever just shown up and played songs, but I'm exploring. I'm surrounded by a lot of creative people right now, and we started building a different kind of show before 2020. We put some of it on YouTube. It was called The Lab. And I don't think that's the show that I want to do, but there's elements of that, the whole looping thing. I think the looping thing can be exhausting and too much. But I do think there's elements of I do want to take people into the process of how I make the record, how I make these songs. And I want them to see my heart in pure joy mode, to feel the energy that we have, when we're making this stuff.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And that's exciting to dream up. I love the phase of dreaming up a show. It's so fun. And it's great to have that sky's the limit mentality, and then you see the budget, and then you have to like realize there is a limit, and you get to rein it in. But like that process of just thinking of all the ideas and thinking big is so fun, like, and exciting to think like, oh, you've worked on all these songs, and now how do you get to bring it to people? How do you get to make them see that soul of yours, you know? So I can't wait till you come to LA so I can go and see it. And I want to play one of your other songs. Someone Will. That's the other song that came out today, right?
Yay! Yes, it is.
All right. Well, tell us about that song.
Buckle up. So
Okay.
I wrote this song. I was riding in a car. I had a song I was really excited about, and I wanted to turn it into certain members of the team because I felt like it was a big song. I wanted to put it out. And I also, in the back of my mind, was like, they're not going to get it. They're not going to like it. And they're not going to let me put it out. And I was crushed before I even sent the email. And I was like, what do I do, man? Because like this happened a lot. And so there was the first time that a voice came into my head as I was going through these doubts. And I was like, man, they're not going to get it. They're not going to let me put it out. And it's not going to work. And they and there's a potential that if they don't get this song, they don't get me. And I think that's the thing I was most afraid of. And there was a voice that came out of nowhere that just said, someone will. And it didn't have a time. It didn't say, you know, it wasn't me going like, we're going to go, you know, whatever. It was just, it was a hopeful message from my inner child, I guess. That was just like, listen, you just got to be patient. Like, it may not work right now, but it will. Someone's going to get it. And I realized how important that message was. And I got to write this with Kobe Calais and Jordan Schmidt. Jordan's worked on some super dope albums that I love, including like the band Camino. And Kobe obviously is, you know, a hero in so many ways. And it was really special to sort of bring that conversation into the room. And we all got to talk about our own versions of like, you know, if you don't feel loved and accepted as is, remember someone will. So it's a turning point in the album. It happens after the turning point technically, but it's kind of a refacing your old doubts and fears and saying, no, someone is going to love me exactly like I am and get me. You know, I'm going to have friends that get me. I'm going to be able to play the song. Like, it's all the above. So the song has been through a lot with me. We played it for the first time in 2016, and the fans put videos on YouTube. So thank God the song has lived through all these seasons. And it's changed a lot, but I think I wanted it to feel more vulnerable in certain spots. I wanted to start in a very vulnerable place, and then I wanted the chorus to come in, and I wanted that voice to be present and say, hey, someone will, and sort of like embrace it and like take it on as my own voice. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'm so stoked to listen to it. All right. The AMP premiere of Someone Will. Here we go. Oh my gosh, I love that one. I mean, I love the last one. That one like hit me though in all the feels in all the right ways. I just really liked that. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And it just made me think, you know, like how many times everybody feels like nobody understands them, whether it's like after a breakup and you're like, oh gosh, like no one will ever fully love me or fully understand me, or, you know, all these people who are trying to chase their dreams and they think that no one quite sees them. It's just this idea that like all it takes is one, like somebody will. I love that. So thanks so much for writing such great music. I think you're still muted.
You know, you swear it's the first time I've ever done this. I really appreciate you saying that though. Thank you so much. It's like, I'm glad that that people can feel the energy of the song. I'm glad that people respond to it the way that they do. It's like, that's what we wanted for this song, you know, that empowering. Yeah. and I love what you said. Like all it takes is one. All it takes is one.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Like, it's been proven time and time again of like, you know, I just remember it made me almost think of like my first ever show. I put it on to try to get an agent, and I invited like, you know, I somehow got all these agents to my show to like, hopefully have one of them want to sign me. And I remember I met with several of them after the show, and like 2 of them passed, then 3 of them passed. And then the last one I met with, you know, and this was after the uphill struggle to even be able to do that show. And the last one I met with wanted to sign me. And, you know, it's just that thing. All it takes is one person to say, hey, I think you have something to offer, and I see it, you know, and that's so good. Someone will.
Yeah, someone will.
I guess how has the reaction been for this new music you've been putting out? Because you've put out several singles of the album so far, not the full album, but like, how has the reaction from your fans been?
Amazing. Like I was so excited because, like, as we, you know, I'll call it a transition if you want to, but like leaving the major label and, like, you know, redesigning my team, because I was just like, okay, I fit into sort of a system that works really well, but I want to design my own system, and I want to do my own things. I want to start my own labels. I want to, you know, I want to develop artists. I want to produce other artists. I want to, like, you know, build a company that does, like, there's so many other things that I want to do. I want to design watches. I want to start a Scotch company. I want to make therapy fucking free for as many people as I possibly can. Like, there's so many things that I want to do, and so many parts of my world that I wanted to do, that I had to sort of rethink everything. And in that sort of series of conversations, there were a lot of like, well, what are your fans going to think? And I was like, they're here, they're in, like, they're already listening to stuff that's off the beaten path. This was just me guessing, but at the same time, like, I had been talking to so many of these fans in meet and greets, and, like, I've seen them at multiple shows. We've had conversations. Like, thank God, like, I have been blessed with people who like what I do and are willing to share who they are in a community that they have built with me around shows, around conversations, interviews, things like this. Like I am eternally grateful for this community. And community is a one word to put it, but, like, this group of people, it has always been a safe space for me. And we've always connected. My music, I think, if I had to guess, I think our connection is emotion. It's not a genre. It's not a chart position. It's not a single tour. It's not a single song. I think the people who have connected with what I do connect with the emotion of it. And we all connect on an emotional level as humans, maybe as a result of it. And that's just a guess, but I think, and I'm not trying to sit here and figure it out either, but I think if I look at the community that I'm really grateful for, and I have to name off the first thing, it's that we connect on emotional levels. And I guess my hope is that we connect musically through that emotion and through that safety to feel emotion and experience emotion. And I want my music to feel like therapy. You know what I mean? Like, that's my goal, with my dream. So I was never afraid of, you know, sort of pushing the boundaries. The only thing I was afraid of was, you know, the team around me. Would the team around me be brave enough? And would the team around me trust me if I said, look, listen, I know you're scared because this is nothing like I've ever done, but I promise my fans, like, they get me. They know me, you know, and they're going to get this because this is me. And I think that's the thing that led me and guided me through the whole thing. I knew that if I was present in the music that I was making, everyone that I've met, everyone that I've, shaken their hands, you know, given them a hug, said hello after a show, talked to, they shared their story with me. Everyone that I've met with, or has come to a show, knows me at least that well. And if I'm present in the music, hopefully they'll feel it. That's my job, is to be present in the music. So, I would, you know, obviously I was a little nervous. I think the only thing I was really nervous about Could Have Been You, because it's my first time dropping an F-bomb and it's in every chorus. And there were only like 2 or 3 fans that weren't really that happy about that. But what I've hoped for, what I've been optimistically sort of like hoping for, and what I've seen in evidence is we're literally all experiencing being human at the same time. And we have so much in common and so much that makes us unique. But in saying that, I'm incredibly encouraged. I was optimistic. I was hopeful that they would hear my heart and my soul. And every time I do that, every time I do something that scares me because it's more of me than I've put out in the world before, the response is positive. And I think that's just and I mirror the fans in this comment, because I think they have created a world where I feel safe to do that. And they're also just a group of, it's all positivity. We're all encouraging. It's all, up and onwards. And And I have been really encouraged by them to like every time I take a step out of my comfort zone, they go a step further in saying, "Give me more of this." And so I've leaned on that during this process, and that has given me fuel that I needed that I didn't have on my own, you know?
Yeah, that's really, really beautifully said. I love that you said that, the emotion is what ties you to your fans. It's not a genre. It's never been about that. It's like, it's you, it's who you truly are. And as long as you're true to that and the emotion is there, like it's going to resonate. Like that's, and I've never been a genre person myself because I've never even known how to describe my music and where it fits. I actually don't even know. And so, and everybody's got such eclectic taste nowadays anyway. So it's like, yeah, as long as the through line is your heart and soul. And by the way, it was really sweet as you were talking. I'm sure you're probably looking at the chat as well, but just all the comments of love that everybody was sharing with you of like, we love you, Hunter, we love you. And this is a family and, you have our hearts and your music is my therapy. Like it was really, really touching to see all the comments just like streaming through of like, what an amazing family you've created through your music. And I guess, how have you created this family in your community?
Well, I don't take credit for it. So one of the things I'm practicing is to give myself credit for certain things, but at the same time, I think both are true. When I first came on the scene, I didn't know anything other than I think I challenged myself because I saw a lot of artists around me achieving a lot of success. And I just felt like, so many artists that achieved quick success were just full of shit. And I couldn't connect. I didn't believe it. I couldn't love the music because I didn't feel like I knew them. And listen, that's different from the people who come out and create a character. Like I have a lot of respect for artists who come out, I'm not going to say specifically who, but I think there's a couple like stadium artists right now who have created a character and that allows them to be kind of what you were saying, two separate people. They get to work on their music in a space where they're not personally. And I also struggle with some of the artists who make a business out of making things personal, because that's also kind of really uncomfortable, and I can't support that. So I had to find my own sort of version of all those things. And I think my challenge that I loved early on was just like, I'm going to be more authentic. That's my challenge. I'm going to be the most authentic human in the room. Yeah. And because that's all I got. Like, I'm not like, I'm not coming out here pretending to be this phenomenal musician. I play a lot of things, but that's because I have to. And I enjoy that, right? Like I'm doing it because I love it. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to show off. And I'm writing very personal things and very honest things. And my goal is to write a more honest song than the last guy did, right? So like that's authenticity was all, I think early on, that was my game. That was my card to play in every room where I was like, I am not worthy of being in this room. However, I'm going to be the most authentic person in this room. And so that was my challenge. That was my competitive sort of edge.
I love that. I'm sorry, just breaking in real quick, because I love that you said like imposter syndrome is so real for so many people. And this idea that like, I couldn't possibly deserve to be in this writer's room, or feeling like, oh gosh, I'm not sharing enough. I'm not bringing enough good ideas to the table. Like I don't belong in this place, or, whatever facet it may be, but just saying, well, hey, I'm going to show up and be like the best version of myself. And I'm going to be kind. I'm going to bring love into this room, or, that's a great perspective and a great way to think about it. Sorry, continue.
No, yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. And so I think I looked at everybody performing really well in a room, and I thought, I'm never going to be able to perform that well. And what I mean is like, just as a human, I'm never going to be able to act like a star. I'm never going to be able to, walk into a room with all the confidence in the world and just like, whatever, what can I bring into every room? And it's like, okay, well, there's my light as a human, and there's that, and that only comes through authenticity. So I think because I said, I don't know. So I think that was my goal very early on. And then I think as it transitioned, or the transition was as I started meeting and making fans for the first time. I experienced connections that were authentic. And then it was like, wait a minute, this is not a competitive edge. This is a guideline. This is a guardrail. This is a foundation. You know, because it starts, you're thrown into rooms with so many artists, and then you start to make your own fans and make your, like, build your audience and meet people for the first time. And it was there that I realized, oh, no. Yes, you discovered something special, but you discovered something special through.
I don't know if you guys can still hear Hunter, but I'm having a hard time hearing. Oh, no, I think we might have lost Hunter.
I'm back if it works.
You're back. Okay,
Yay.
sorry. Carry on with what you're saying.
So, no, I think that changed the relationship because, like, you know, you it is two separate brains. You think about what's going to make you successful as an artist, but then you think about what you want. I want to be doing this for 60 years. I want people that enjoy my music, and I also want people that enjoy my shows and the environment that we've created over the next, 60 something years. So then it changed from like a mindset to like, this is what I want. This is what I want. This is the kind of audience that I would want to be a part of. And then it's all you, everyone listening, all the fans, like they took it from there. You know, they named themselves and they started, meeting from across the world, across the country at shows. And this happened super early on. And then they kept coming to shows. They kept proving to the label, right? Like I would play a show for 300 people. They would sell it out. I would play the next, like 3 months later, play for 1,000, seats, and they would sell it out. And they kept showing up and they kept meeting more people. They kept growing as a community, not just like me with an audience, like the community grew. And I got to grow alongside of it. So I think that's my favorite part of my career, is that it's not based on a single. It's not based on how well this did, or like my appearance on this show, or this, that, whatever. Like I feel like the community, and I feel that when I'm at your show too, like the community grew on its own. Right. And I grew with it. We grew together. I grew alongside of it, like all those versions. But I think there was a point where they took ownership of the community, and we just got to that in and of itself became a flow state. Yeah. Our meet and greets have never been traditional. Anytime we do a traditional meet and greet, we warn the people that are organizing it. They're like, yeah, we'll get through 60 people in 3 minutes. And I'm like, we're not. That's not going to happen. And even when we do, like I end up apologizing to people, but it's always been the goal to create that environment. And I think that I've done my half of the work, and the fans, the community, the group, the family has done the work to keep it that way and to make it that way.
It really is an amazing thing. And like you said, we can't ever take ownership for our communities. It's like, I didn't do this. Like they are kind to each other, and they've created these friendships and like, this culture within like the community that I can't claim. But it's like any relationship. It's like a two-way street. Like you said, it's one feeds the other. Your art feeds the community, and the community like feeds your passion and your career and your shows. And it's a quite magical thing. And I don't even fully understand how it works, but, from within these communities. But like you said, it's a magical thing as an artist to have such a supportive, group. And like I said, it's just so cool to see all the comments of how much your fans love you and how excited they are for to run through this new chapter with you and experience it all. And I would like to play, one more song from you before we close up here. And so I thought I queued up Missing You. I just picked one that I liked. But is there another one you would rather play?
No, I love that. I love that. That's like, to me, that's like the most familiar side of the album. But I also wanted to highlight, I love the way that you said it. You said it better than any of the 30 minutes I spent trying to explain it. It is a circle, and that's so beautifully said. Like it being an artist, having an 80-year career, 100-year career, whatever you want, is never going to be a one-way thing. It is a cycle. It is, we get fed by the people that we get to play music for. And I just thought the way that you said that was really beautiful. So, Missing You is great. Like that's a fun one. from well, I guess there's a lot of fun. There's more fun. There's more up tempo on this album than I've ever had on an album. But yeah, Missing You is just like early on in the hero's journey. I kind of track listed according to the steps of the hero's journey because I felt like it was every movie, every story we've ever loved is based on the hero's journey, and so it's kind of early on. It's in love with nostalgia. It's kind of like using nostalgia as like a vice, but it also was just a fun song to make, and it was easy. Like we were writing something else. I had like an hour left. I was like, guys, you know that moment in the writing room where like you can feel that it's not happening, and you're like, no one else is going to say this, and I have to be the one to say that like this isn't working. We have to switch, and I did, and
so uncomfortable to say that.
It's so uncomfortable, and we did. We switched it, and the song wrote itself in like 30 minutes, and I've loved it ever since. It's just like there's so many things about the song that were just like fun to make, but also just like it's felt good. I enjoy playing it. I love playing it live, and yeah, I really appreciate you showing so much love to the project.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and play it. Missing You. Woohoo! That's one of those songs that when I hear it, I just want to get in my car and roll the windows down at like sunset and drive. It has that feel to it. It's just like, yeah, that's a really good feeling song. I'm just going to warn you to unmute yourself.
God bless. What the hell? Someday. I'm learning a lot. And this informs how I get to inform people who call into our show. Thank you for saying that. I do want at least half of this record to be like, speeding ticket music.
Ah, yes.
Stuff that makes you feel so good. You could get a speeding ticket. I'm not encouraging it. Right, I'm highly discouraging driving it above the speed limit. It is against the law. I'm not condoning it.
I'll blame Hunter if it happens to you. So, but Hunter is only.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for just spending so much time with us tonight. Like, I know this is a big day for you, and it was probably full of all kinds of interviews and press and whatnot. So just thanks for your time. And this has just been so nice to connect with you again and to chat. And, before I lose you, is there anything else that you wanted to, tell your fans, tell our fans? Yeah.
Just thank you. I'm really grateful. Lindsey, thank you so much for having me on your show. I would love to have you on our Hear Me Out episode. It looks like a lot of fans are advocating for that. We're making a petition for you to come join us on a Tuesday night. But I really appreciate you sharing your platform with another artist and letting me and giving me the platform to get to talk about creativity and the lessons from this album and the messages of this album. Not in a promotional way, just in a human way. And I sincerely appreciate the conversation that you open to people, and the fact that you've created this safe environment too is just like, I'm such a big fan of you as an artist, big fan of you as a human. And I think this is like a whole third level of like creating a world where people can talk about these things and share their soul and feel safe doing it. I really appreciate that about you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And, likewise, right back at you. I appreciate your vulnerability and your just authenticity and how you share, the ups, the downs, all the things. And by the way, I don't know why I didn't talk about this earlier. I just remembered. Do you remember the first time we met? Years ago.
Okay, so go ahead.
It was backstage at I think it was the Country Music Awards.
CMT?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I just met Hunter Hayes. But you were so sweet and you were so nice. And that's just a fun memory because now we know each other in just like a different way than just like meeting backstage as a fan at like an award show. So anyways, it's just been really cool to get to know you and to see your depth and, look back on that moment of like, I don't know, almost feels like another lifetime ago.
It does feel like another lifetime. I also remember the fundraiser for Children's Miracle Network where we got to connect. There was a song of yours that I was really excited to perform on one of your albums. And long story short, I was really excited. I recorded all the parts, and it didn't come to pass because of red tape and things that I had no control over. And I was so sad about it. And I got to run into you, and and just thank you for the opportunity. And I know that we'll work together in the future. I really look forward to that. That's no pressure, but yeah, we're big fans. We're big. I like you. You are such an icon in so many ways. And I just massively respect the career that you've built for yourself, the kind of artistry that you represent, the kind of message that you share with your fans, the kind of community that you've built, the show that you design and put on. Like, just so appreciate you as an artist, as a human. And yeah, thanks for inviting me on your show.
Well, thank you for being here, and thanks for everything you said. And I definitely will take you up on that. I'd love to come on your Tuesday AMP show. So let's make it happen. And until then, congrats on your new album that's coming out soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, take care. And everybody, thanks for being with us tonight, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye.